Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Thanks for checking out my video. So to continue with some more musical examples and how we can actually apply some of the scales we've been looking at. Today I'm going to go through some more simple Guitar Hero licks, this time in the style of B.B. King. So B.B. King is one of the true kings of the blues. If you don't know, there is three. And he is definitely one of mine and probably many guitarists' biggest influences. Eric Clapton, Peter Green, John Mayall, and many more. They all cite B.B. King as one of the greatest guitarists and one of their biggest influences also. B.B. King has an instantly recognisable tone and style. Not really one for fast licks or flashy playing. His focus was really on pouring as much emotion into every note as he could. His playing really evokes deep feeling and captures the true spirit of the blues. His pure tone is a major key to his sound, and unlike that of almost any other blues guitarist before or since. Anyway, if you haven't listened to B.B. King before, I would definitely recommend him. Listening and studying his playing will definitely give you a lot of ways to inject more emotion into your own playing. Where it will also provide you a huge range of both major and minor blues licks, and even give you a few examples of how you can take your improvisation a little further by using modes. B.B. King has so many great albums. It is really quite unbelievable. And I do not know if it is actually possible to recommend only a few. I would say that I definitely prefer the earlier ones over his later recordings. They seem a little more raw in both the guitar tone and the vocals. But really, if I had to pick a few, I'd probably have to go with some of his live albums. The first probably being Live at the Regal, which I think was recorded in 1964 or 65. Live at Fillmore East from 1971 is another really good one. Or possibly my favourite would be Live in Cook County Jail from 1971 with all the prisoners in the background booing the sheriff. It's a really good one right there. These three albums are absolute masterpieces. And they will give you a whole host of B.B. King classic songs. But probably more importantly, they really capture some of the pure essence of King's music, which is a huge focus on dynamics, with an expert backing band, including a very dynamic horn section following King's every direction, taking the level down almost to complete silence and then building it back up or striking with loud bursts like lightning. If you don't want to download or buy three albums though, there are many greatest hit collections out there, and any one of those should give you all the classic tracks. So how can we sound like B.B. King? Well, B.B. King started recording in 1949, and back then guitarists really didn't have anywhere near the same options that we do today. So getting close to an effective B.B. King sound is not hugely difficult, I wouldn't say. So what do we actually need? Well, first off, we need a vintage style tube amp with a lot of headroom, and we want to turn it up. The only amps available at those times would have been probably Fender tube amps or something similar. and large amps were frequently used at high volume in order for the sound to fill the venue, because obviously there was no miking up into the PA in those times. Due to the nature of King's music and the multiple dynamic lifts and drops from song to song, King would frequently adjust the levels on his guitar, rolling off the volume at lower points and then rolling it on louder as the band build back up or for the solos. King always said he wasn't one for chords, and if you see any videos of him playing live, he's really either singing or playing. So this obviously gave him much more time to adjust things easily as he went along. Pedals, well, really, probably none. As far as I'm aware, I don't even think there probably were pedals when BB King first started. Most likely, he was probably always going straight into his amplifier. And the tone you hear is very straight and pure. However, if you wanted, you could use a clean booster just to make your solo stand out a little more in songs if you don't want to mess around with the volume knob. You could try a vintage style overdrive pedal set really low. That may work also. But you've really got to be quite careful, as BB King's sound is really built from the full natural sound of a loud amp, and there really isn't much overdrive or any distortion in his tone at all. At most, maybe just a slight top end bite or edge, really just from the power of the humbuckers at high volume. So try and focus more on a cleaner sort of tone. So what guitar do we need? Well, the classic BB King sound is obviously from his signature piece of equipment, which is his Gibson 335 or 355 semi-hollow guitar with humbuckers. Now, these were not actually issued until 1958. And a lot of BB King's earlier recordings through RPM were actually done, I think, on a Fender Esquire or Telecaster. And he also used other classic Gibson solid or hollow bodies before the famous semi-hollows came out. Another little detail here is King actually used to block the F-holes on his guitar to stop the guitar from feeding back. Which was quite common for many guitarists around that time. But this apparently is why, if you look at a signature BB King Lucille guitar, these are manufactured without F-holes. Now, all these Gibsons are obviously pretty expensive, and even high-end Gretsch might get you close, but they're not really cheap either. So if you're looking for a cheap alternative, any semi-hollow will definitely get you in the ballpark. Epiphone makes some good cheaper models, and Gretsch also have a lower budget range that are really raved about. For me, however, although I think these guitars are absolutely great, I personally find them a little bit awkward to play. So what I use if I want that sort of hollow sound, I have a bit of a hybrid guitar called a Cabronita, which is essentially a thin line model Telecaster with Gretsch Fidelitron humbuckers. This is the closest sort of thing I have and what works for me. Maybe the sound doesn't get you completely there. The Gretsch pickups definitely have much more high-end sparkle than your traditional humbucker, and especially with BB King we really want a slightly thicker or less bright tone, and this becomes a bit of a challenge as obviously on the Cabronita there is no tone knob, but like I said, this sort of works for me. The other thing that I use sometimes is I have a vintage reissue 50s telly, and I find that although that's solid body, that gets really close. That has custom vintage pickups, and actually has a 4-way switch, so I can put the pickups in series. That is almost like having a humbucker. Plus I can obviously then roll off the tone a little bit. I do find though that the middle setting on a telly, so both pickups together, that can be get me quite close to a sort of BB King sort of sound as well. You can still use a Strat or a Les Paul if you like and still get close to a lot of BB's tone. At the end of the day, most of King's sound was in his fingers, not his equipment. So, anyway, what is King actually doing musically? Well, a lot of the time, he is actually not doing very much. And really, that's one of the magic tricks of BB King right there. By pausing or holding single notes, he builds a lot of tension, and this makes the notes he does play much more exciting and satisfying. When we break down the notes that he is playing, we can see or we can hear that most of the time he is just sticking to both the major and the minor blues scales and mixing them both together. But usually with a bit more of a focus on the major side. However, occasionally we very well may hear an extra more modal note thrown in here or there, especially in some of the minor key songs where he may use notes from the Aeolian or natural minor scale. A supposedly common trick for inventing BB King licks is to take your minor pentatonic and replace your flat 7 with a major 6th. So definitely try that out, see what you get. Some other tricks to King's playing include using a lot of vibrato. So take the time to practice that technique and get it really good. Rakes, which is muting and striking across all other strings before hitting the note you want. And another thing is precision. King's playing is very direct, clean and precise. Whereas with other artists like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Buddy Guy, it's sometimes appropriate to mess or dirty things up a little bit. Really with King, I would say we want to play as precisely as we can. Anyway, that's probably enough info. I've tried here to put a few simple licks together in the video with the tabs. Hopefully you can learn these, you can start putting them into your own playing, or just use them as a starting point to create your own. Yeah, alright, so let's check them out.